USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at USAA.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
Your weekend is not complete without the First Lady of New York Radio. It's the Joan Hamburg Show. Talk Radio 77 WABC.
Welcome to the Joan Hamburg Show. Sundays at 2 o'clock. Among our guests, two of Broadway's brightest stars. And they're starring in the hit shows that are bringing in the crowds. Jesse Williams, whom you know from all his television triumphs, is starring in Take Me Out. He's a remarkable actor, and it's a show with many, many layers. It's now on its second time. It had its run, and then there was such a demand that they brought it back. So it's a wonderful cast, and Jesse is truly a star. So I know you don't want to miss that. And then the superb actress, and this woman can sing like you never heard, Victoria Clark, and she's starring in Kimberly Akimbo, another great big hit on Broadway. So you're always calling and asking me, what do we spend? Should we spend money on if we go to theater? And most people don't go to that much theater. Here are two shows that I promise you're going to love. A lot of dimension. You'll cry, you'll laugh. These are things I want you to put on your list. And don't forget, we are on every Sunday beginning at 2 o'clock. We're on Facebook. You name it, we're there. And I love that you're part of our audience. Plus, we do features which tell you the best things to eat and where to go to eat them in New York City. And you get an opportunity to ask Joan. So everything on a Sunday, 2 o'clock, the Joan Hamburg Show.
The new McCrispy Strip is here. Dip approved by ketchup, tangy barbecue, honey mustard, Sprite, McFlurry, Big Mac sauce, double dipped in buffalo and ranch, more ranch, and creamy chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Now at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
The First Lady of New York Radio, Joan Hamburg. Entertaining and informative. Talk Radio 77 WABC.
Welcome, everyone, to the Joan Hamburg Show. And I'm excited today because I have a really special actor who is starring in a special play. Jesse Williams, who you know, he's one of our really great actors, and you know him as Dr. Jackson Avery on Grey's Anatomy, where he worked for many, many years, and now he's playing Darren Lemming in Take Me Out at the Schoenfeld Theater. And I think it's right. You'll have to tell me, through February 5th. I know they extended it.
That's correct, yes.
So that's exciting.
Thank you.
Well, it's a wonderful play. And, of course, I saw it a while ago when it opened, and now it's back again, which is great. And as you point out, this is like you're starting a whole new career. It's like beginning again in something different.
It does feel that way. Thanks so much for having me. It does feel it's a pretty interesting process. I started acting when I was almost 30 and immediately began on a big network show. And so I didn't already have the experience of popping around in different forms of film and television and stage. So now that I'm not doing that anymore, I get to play again and try something new. And this is my first three-act play. And being able to come out as a lead in an incredible piece of material written by Richard Greenberg, and for us to have such success, it's a spectacularly written play. And for us to be able to pack houses and learn so much on the fly and win the Tony again. It's pretty incredible ride.
That's right. And are you a baseball person?
You know what? I grew up as a baseball person. I grew up playing essentially year-round. It was a great form of bonding for my father and I. One of my brothers played as well. So it was a big part of my life, studying the game, appreciating the game. My father used it as a metaphor for so many things in life. So it actually, a lot of that kind of rings true to me as a person, for me to connect that and channel that for the character. A lot of the play really is an homage to the game and the symbolism in the game. So that does have a deep kind of nostalgic connection for me.
Were you good at baseball as a kid?
I was pretty damn good. Yeah, I was pretty damn good actually.
I know my kid was not good as a kid in baseball, and we had a farm in rural Vermont, and everyone, the farmers, the neighbors, they'd all come over to the old cornfields and play baseball. And my kid, was one of those kids when he was little that they didn't want to pick him first because he was not, and he was so afraid of being hit by the ball as a little kid that he raised his hand up and the ball went into the mitt totally by accident. So he became a star and a baseball hero and then ended up loving the sport. So it's a great sport, and it's a wonderful play too, because I love stories, and this play tells all kinds of stories that reflect so many of our lives, and I'm sure your life in many ways.
Yeah, it really is it's just so, I mean, I catch myself, we did 2 shows yesterday, and I find myself at different times on that stage just pinching, like saying to myself, wow, this is such an incredible play. I'm such a fan of the play while doing it. There are so many different interwoven storylines that it's so unpredictable. It keeps audiences gasping and laughing and crying, and there's such a wide range of intense moments, and it's just a great confluence of events for different characters. And there's so many places to hook onto. That it really is a wonderful experience, both for the viewer and for us as performers.
And Jesse, you were a teacher at a certain point too. So
That's
how
right.
did that path lead you to being an actor?
Well, yes, I taught high school public schools in Philadelphia, where I was a student at Temple University, and after I graduated, and I ended up, film was one of my majors at Temple, and I was making student films and wandering taking the Chinatown bus up from Philadelphia to New York to shoot with other students and I was shooting films with folks at NYU and Columbia, and just getting jobs off of Craigslist and making films, and that led me to wanting to play around in front of the camera as well, because the goal is to tell a story and figuring out ways to tell stories. And I always found that the camera lens, is really the gateway for so many of us for information, what's happening in the world, how to empathize with folks from other walks of life. It's a terrific teaching tool and form of edutainment. And so that was something that was really compelling to me. And I stumbled into some work in doing some modeling and commercials. And that led me to a terrific agent named Michael Guy, who connected me to, ultimately, I quit that business for a couple of years. I was an activist and organizer and high school teacher. And then when I returned, I looked him up, and he got me one meeting with one small agency in New York to try to do some acting to continue that storytelling experience. And I signed with them right away and immediately booked the classic New York television job, Law and Order. And soon after that was hired by Edward Albee himself at Cherry Lane Theater to do the American Dream in the Sandbox. And that was my first time ever on stage in those one-act plays. And I had the incredible privilege of spending several months with Mr. Albee and doing a great set of plays with Judith Ivey and George Bartenieff and Myra Carter, Harmon Walsh. A really great experience. Yeah, really pretty spectacular. So that gave me the bug. That gave me the understanding of what it feels like to be able to make something new every night, and to be a great listener, which is all acting really is.
Right, and then of course you had to adjust, which didn't take that long, from TV, which is not the same as theater, and live theater is a whole different experience too.
Totally different sport. Yeah, they feel like two completely different leagues, and I don't mean that as a value judgment, just as an experience and what you bring to the table. It's an incredible learning experience for me. I'm learning every day. I'm still making mistakes and still figuring out ways to form and shape this character. And that was part of why we came back, actually. After that first run, winning the Tony, it was terrific, limited engagement. I still found I had it in my bones. I was still running the play everywhere I was on vacation. I was still running it. We were really cooking with gas at the end of that run, and I felt like we had more to do. So we rallied the troops, and we're lucky enough to be invited back. And I'm so glad we are. We're in a house at the Schoenfeld that's twice as big as the Hayes, and putting on a hell of a show. I'm really grateful for this opportunity.
And the audience are loving it.
I'm afraid they are. They really are.
So, well, you're going to be doing this for a long time, but there is something about standing on a stage where it's all of the moment. No retakes, no nothing. There you
Exactly.
are, making it work.
I was saying it feels like it's like acting with a gun to your head. It's just it is, because I've gone up, we've made mistakes, we've had huge chunks skipped or whatever, and you don't have a choice. It's the absolute opposite of film and television, where you can say, you know what, I need to go again, and it is really thrilling. There's a lot of adrenaline pumping, and it just, you never get comfortable. As soon as you think you're in the pocket, there are so many other variables at play, and that's a wonderful, wonderful metaphor for life.
Yeah. And in the midst of this, how did Only Murders in the Building come, where you're joining that cast for this new season?
Yeah. I'm so excited
we all
about
love that.
It's a wonderful show, and the two absolute legends who are just
how much fun.
Steve and Marty, they're just so incredible. I met with the showrunner John Hoffman during the hiatus in between these two runs, actually, and they offered me this really exciting opportunity, and I jumped at it. I'm a huge fan of the show. I grew up sneaking down the stairs, watching Saturday Night Live over my mother's shoulder, watching Martin Short and Steve Martin work their magic. And they're just absolute titans. And what an incredible opportunity. And working with Paul Rudd and Selena, we have just so much to do. I actually have another table read tomorrow, I believe. So I'm so excited to also just be able to stay in New York after this run and work with, move over to some really interesting comedy. And it's awesome. Actually, I had dinner with Marty Short, and Steve came to the play a couple of nights ago, and we went out to dinner, and we're hitting it off
comfortable.
Wonderfully.
I'm so glad.
It was wonderful.
But, it's really interesting. So many actors struggled, and I've heard, I have a daughter-in-law who's an actress, and I hear so many performers say, hey, if I don't get anything by 30 or 35, I'm done. I can't take all this rejection. You were almost 30, I think, when you started really getting good stuff. Yeah. I mean, I didn't start until, I was working at law firms and waiting tables and teaching and organizing. So I didn't really start until a little bit before I turned 29. But you know what? It's funny you mentioned that. I did say to myself at the time, I'm going to try this for 18 months. And if it doesn't work, I'll go to law school. I always expected I would become a civil rights lawyer, or I was going to go to law school or film school. I'll give this a little bit. And coming up in New York as a young adult, surrounded by, artists and struggling actors who have been, like you just said, pounding away for a decade. And I didn't grow up with acting as a childhood dream. It was a new thing that I kind of got a taste for, thought it would be fun, but I didn't need it. I have other interests. So I think that let me not grip too tight, and I'm going to play. And if it works, it works. If not, I'll go and find fulfillment somewhere else. And I think that was a little bit of a liberating
entry point for me. But no matter what, I have been incredibly lucky in circumstances here. So I'm grateful every day for this opportunity to play around and learn and grow.
Right.
And
And you have a lot of talent, and it's interesting because you have to take chances, and sometimes that's too scary. But you were doing something else at Temple University, writing, directing, and then acting. Suddenly said, "Hello, don't forget me."
Yeah, and this is certainly a risk. Doing this play was a very scary prospect. Doing something at this level with no net on this tightrope in this highly critical arena, coming from a very safe place of a big network television show that's a monster hit all over the world, to just going into a little house and performing in front of everyone. It was a pretty scary proposition, but it's exactly what I needed at that time in my life.
And you learned that you are a risk taker in many ways.
Yes, indeed.
So it works. Do you remember that opening night with all that angst and everything?
I do. I remember the first preview. We did kind of a photo call and a preview for maybe only 50 people. And, I don't really I get excited. There's nerves, but I actually found myself experiencing more true nervousness at random shows when I know there's somebody who I admire in the audience than just opening the show. I'm comfortable public speaking. I'm comfortable in front of a crowd. For whatever reason, but it's one of the things that keeps you alive. We've done, 170 shows or something now, and I'll still get a little nervous when I know there's somebody. Jessica Lange was in the audience last night, and when Bryan Cranston's in the audience with these people who've come to see the show, you get, okay, all right, this is it's a new step for me, because it's also a different peer group that is enjoying my work. I've for folks my age and a lot of artists, they might not have watched Grey's Anatomy, but they're aware of me as an activist. They've seen speeches and remarks that I've given as a public advocate, but not necessarily seen my artistry. So this is a new level for me to be meeting folks in the lobby after, or coming backstage and talking artist to artist, making eye contact with that in mind. So that's a new, exciting platform.
Right, and the play itself, your character is a baseball player, a mixed race player on a fictitious, the Empire's baseball team, and your character reveals that he's gay, and then you have to deal, which was unexpected in many cases, with how your teammates and the world at large viewed you. It was a whole different thing. So a lot of big issues in this play.
Yes, a lot of big issues. We talk about the physical demands, the mental demands of being able to put 8-9 shows up a week for this long, and on top of that, I would add it's the emotional experience, because my character has a real firestorm of emotional heartbreak and devastation, and he's got very high highs and very low lows during this production. So it's a lot to contend with. Yes, as you said, the character begins the play as kind of the king of the world, the best player on the best team, untouchable, crystal, just a really clean record and no obstacles in his life. But the act of coming out without changing anything else about his behavior, just by saying to the world that he was gay, all the men around him completely change. Best friends, employees, managers, teammates. So all just watching your world shift underneath you, and him grasping, sometimes desperately, for a handhold when he's never had to reach for a handhold before, because they've always been presented to him. So you're watching kind of a hero fumble and stumble in a very cerebral, interesting way. The writing I cannot say enough about. Richard Greenberg absolutely gives you every single in every single scene, so many wonderful concepts and ideas to chase and try to play with. There's a great sense of wonder and mystery, as well as intellectual leadership in the writing. It's really a wonderful opportunity for everybody.
So, Jesse, when they announced that after the play did its run, it had a limited run at one point, that they were going to consider strongly a second run, was that thrilling, or was that, oh my gosh, give me a break, I'm tired?
Well, to be honest, they asked me when we were not even finished. We had our first limited run, then we were extended, then they came and asked if I would just stay on and just keep the show going. At which point I said, no, please get out of my dressing room. I'm so tired. We've done it. I want to go be with my children and have at least some time off. And I was just beat up. It's the first time I'd ever done something like this. And I thought that was that. I really did. And that's when, after a week or two off, it was nice to be able to sleep, because another thing about the demand of the play is it's not just the play itself. I have to be in the gym every day. I'm 42 years old. I have to work to be in shape and eat a certain way, and there's a lot of other rigor around being able to put on this production. And but my love for the work is what won out. So as time passed, I said, you know what? Let's talk about this, because there's more in the tank here. And most importantly, I wanted more people to have a chance to experience the play. I just believe in it so much, and I watched the way it impacted folks.
It does.
So there's more. The people need to see this. So I was all in at that point to bring it back. I just needed to feel it in my gut. I didn't want it to be a calculated move, to be about anything but my feel for the art form. And once that found me, we were like a rocket right back over.
You were
here.
okay.
And luckily, we brought almost everybody back except for almost the entire same cast. Patrick Adams wasn't able to join us, so Bill Heck took over the role of Kippy, and he is absolutely astounding in the role. So we're really
happy. And was it hard for you, Jesse, to find Darren Lemming? It took a lot of work to get inside him.
It took a lot of research and just being a student of what that mindset is. I have a familiarity with the game. I have a familiarity with the locker room, but this trajectory for a character, that there is a level of arrogance, if not obliviousness at some point. It's the denial, which really, it's not a denial, but a lack of experience with being humbled, a lack of experience with having to work hard, that where talent meets effort is very different for this character than it is in my life. Mm-hmm. But I found the human thread. I think I've been able to really find the emotional arc and set of expectations and what my character wants, needs, and expects, and what he's equipped, what tools he has in his toolbox in each one of these circumstances. So I'm learning and growing every show. I've made new and interesting discoveries on line delivery and moments and listening as recently as 2 nights ago, which is it's just such a thrilling thing, the idea that you can find freedom and live through repetition, which it's, people
that's
wonder.
Interesting.
Doing the same thing every night, doesn't it get boring? But
yeah.
It doesn't, because there's something new in there if you dig deep enough, if you're open.
Yeah. And you had once said that you need to be scared a little bit as an actor. Do you still feel that way, that it's essential to your growth?
I think it's incredibly useful. I'm not sure if it's essential after a period of time, because things, they have an arc in the experience, and at a certain point, just like anything, even a relationship or you can love a movie, you can love a song. It's a good example, and you can play it over and over again. But at a certain point, at the 400th spin or the 40th play, I should put this away so that it's fresh again later. So everything has an end. For me, at that stage of my life and my career, personal and professional, I needed something new, exciting, that wasn't for the money, it wasn't for the safety, it wasn't for the convenience. It was for me, for my soul, and to be challenged. And so when this time ends, I know that I stretched. I know that I put myself in a vulnerable position. It helps you grow, especially as a man in this world trying to figure out how to be vulnerable and be available to myself and others, truly, emotionally, present and mature. Being able to do work like this, I would like to think helps foster that kind of growth.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, Jesse. A great job and a treat for all of us to be able to see this and giving us Darren Lemming. Continued success. We'll talk again. Thanks.
Thank you so very much. We've got a couple more weeks. Come out and join us until February 5th. I so appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay, take
All
care,
right.
Jesse.
Take care.
And I'm Joan Hamburg, and you're listening to WABC. You've got to go get tickets for this show. You don't have that much time, but it's a wonderful show with a lot of issues, and it's got everything that you want in theater. I'm Joan Hamburg, and you're listening to WABC. More ahead.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
Taking you behind the curtain. It's the Joan Hamburg Show. Talk Radio 77 WABC.
It's a real treat for me this new year to start off with Victoria Clark, who's one of my favorite actresses. You have heard her wonderful music. She's a singer, a director. She's been in so many Broadway musicals, in film, in TV. She's got albums, and including a fairly new one that's out. And to this day, I remember when I saw the light in the piazza and was literally stunned by it. It left such an impact. And of course, now Victoria in another huge role, starring as Kimberly in Kimberly Akimbo. By the way, incredible reviews. It's on Broadway. It opened not that long ago at the Booth Theater. So I was really excited when I saw it. And also, knowing the story, questioned, can Victoria, who is not a teenager, play the role of a 15, 16-year-old, look like her, dress like her? And guess what? It worked. You had no idea. You just got caught up in this incredible, funny, sad play. And it's what we all need. We've gone through tough times, and there's a lot of theater, but I was so excited to find theater that we could laugh at, we could cry at, and really relate to it. It was important. So, guys, you got to go see it. It's not such an easy ticket to get, but keep going because it's going to make you feel very happy. And Victoria, when you heard about Kimberly Akimbo, did you start when it started off Broadway?
Yes, I did the entire run at the Atlantic Theater in New York, and it was a thrill. And it was in the height of Omicron during COVID, and we took on a commercial producer, David Stone, during that time, so we knew we were coming to Broadway about this time last year. And it's such a thrill to be with you on the show, Joan. I'm a huge fan, and thank you so much for having me today. But,
to look like a teenager, and yet it was so real and so natural. And that's the part that's amazing. Now, I don't remember how old you said in one of the interviews you had you are. I think in your early 60s or something like that.
That's right. Yeah.
But you look just like you could be 14 or 15, and there was nothing sort of awkward about it. It just was you. And what a gift that is.
Thank you. I don't know exactly how I found her at that age. I think I'm kind of a goofy, silly. There's a lot of silliness in me. So, and quite a bit of nerdiness also. So I think I just try to access the joy and the openness and sort of that curiosity and passion and longing of that age, which is pretty unadulterated. I think as we get older, we tend to cover things up and make excuses for ourselves. And at that age, if we're really honest, there is an openness and a vulnerability. And so it's a matter of me being brave enough to open that up.
No, and I remember reading, and then I suddenly realized when you played Light in the Piazza, it was about a woman whose child had a physical condition, and there was a real possibility, I think, that she would never grow up. She would always be a child. And now you're playing a child, a teenage child, and you look really great. But how do you get into that kind of child's head and body?
Well, it involves a lot of craft. I mean, I think everything you see and audiences see, there's a lot of more exploring that I can do, but every moment has been carefully thought through from many people's perspective. I mean, this is a community project. We're all interrelated. Really great theater or any work of art, right, is a collaboration. And this is truly the work of our director, Jessica Stone, and of course the source material, which is David Lindsay-Abair's incredible play, and now he's continued. He wrote the book and the lyrics to this, and Janine Tesori wrote the beautiful music, and it is an incredibly funny show. And so I think, one way in is using the humor and the absurdity of the story and the premise, right? This fictitious disease, many people think it is the real progeria.
A real disease, yeah.
It's not a real disease. It's a made-up disease that David created to give us the groundwork for someone who is running out of time. And he often talks about how teenagers see everything as life and death. And in this case, Kimberly really is facing, she's careening towards the end of her life. And it is, everything is about living this moment to the fullest. And so I guess to get into the part, I just, I try to access what I think, she's going through in that particular moment. But the designers, Sarah Lux and our costumes, and Jared Janis with my wig, and everything about the show has been crafted for the audiences to believe that I'm truly a teenager.
And to have the audience leave and feel that if this child, who has the body of an older woman, like 70-year-old woman, and yet this child from a nutty kind of family, now everyone's got some kind of nutty family, but this one has more than her share, and she's determined to spend whatever time she has to find the world, and she's really very wise child. And it makes you sort of stop and think, I grew up with a mom who always said, seize the moment. It's going to be gone, grab hold and relish it.
Hey, guess what? That's what you've done, Joan. You have seized your moment over and over again. We've all tried,
right? We're still seizing. But when you read it, was it threatening at all to be able to go back in time and find her again, that little girl or teenage girl that you were?
Well, first of all, I read so many scripts, and I rarely laugh out loud when I read them. And this show is so funny. I laughed out loud so many times, and I thought, this is going to have audiences roaring. And then you turn the page, and then there's something that's so surprising that's like upsetting. And then you turn the page, and then there was something else that was, really like stabs you in the heart. And then you turn the page, and there's something funny again. And so I love roller coasters. I mean, they're a little hard on my stomach, but I love them. And this is a real roller coaster ride. And it was unlike anything I'd read in years, honestly, since Piazza, which is something you brought up earlier. I mean, I have never encountered a show like this that makes you laugh so hard and then makes you really think about your life in a serious way. Yes, and there are tears. There are.
No, without question. But your story is fascinating, too, because you were a student, you went to Yale, and you weren't always going to start out as an actress. Did you know early on that you had that gift of the voice?
Well, I do think it's a gift. I don't claim any ownership over it other than I've developed it, and I think when you're born with the gift, it's your obligation to nurture it and polish it as much as possible. And I think that God gave me this gift of my voice, but also this intense longing and desire to communicate and to heal. And so I try to use my time on this earth to heal. And I think that the best way for me to do that is to be a storyteller and to find ways to illuminate the human condition. I know that sounds a little, I don't know, corny, but
it's true.
But I try to find ways to bring humanity to the characters that I play and also in the pieces that I direct so that people can see themselves. They can see themselves in our work and learn, oh, I'm not alone. Really, I think that is the main thing I try to convey is that, hey, we've got each other. You're not going on this journey by yourself. And healing and change are possible. And I always wanted to direct. I came to New York to direct. I went to graduate school for directing, new work, actually new musicals is what I wanted to do. And every time I take time off from acting to direct and trying to make a stab in that direction, I get pulled back to acting. So I think the universe may be trying to tell me something. And I'm very, very thrilled to be a part of this production.
No, it's great. And when your son is a grown-up now, right, in his 20s?
He's almost 30. Yeah, he just turned 28. Thanks for asking. Yeah,
28. How'd that happen?
I don't know, because I'm still 20, so I'm not really sure what happened. I'm actually 16. So.
Oh my gosh! When he saw it, was he shocked?
He loves it, and his girlfriend Emily loves it. They've come several times. My family and close friends are very moved by it because they've it takes a village to support me in this part because it requires so much stamina and energy, and so I've had the support not just of my friends and family but our incredible cast. I mean, my co-stars are astonishing. Justin Cooley.
I was going to say that. Your co-stars are really terrific, too. It's wonderful ensemble. The whole group sort of blends into each other and creates this reality that, holds you. And I'm telling you, you're laughing one minute, you're crying the next minute, and you're rooting so hard for this kid who is you. It's amazing.
Thank you. I just want to give them a shout out because Justin Cooley just graduated from high school a year ago.
Oh my gosh.
He's my co-star. He's he plays my best friend and he's astonishing. Bonnie Milligan is giving a breakout performance as my Aunt Deborah. What's fun is that I'm way older than anyone else in the cast, but most of them play. Yeah. Ali Mazzi, who's a Broadway favorite. She plays my mom. Stephen Boyer, who was in Hand of God. He's Tony nominee. He plays my dad. And then we have these four remarkable young actors who play sort of my friends at school, the four teenagers, and they're also just astonishing. So they also create the illusion. I mean, because they see me as a teenager. So all of us all together, create this illusion of this world. And I'm happy that
and it becomes real. There's nothing self-conscious about it. And no, but think about it. When you see people playing age different roles, particularly younger roles or kids, sometimes there's a lot of self-consciousness to try to make it possible, but there's none of that in Kimberly Akimbo. Absolutely
Thank
none
you.
of it. You're just
appreciate
open
you
to
saying
it.
that. Thank you so much.
And I'm sure you feel that way. So did you have to audition or no?
Oh, that's a funny story. It was kind of like there was a big meeting, right? And I was directing Love Life at New York City Center. And we were in rehearsal at, in the New York City Center building, and Janine's office also happens to be there. And Janine had called me, and I was terrified to come in for it because it was a huge role and just seemed like impossible. Actually, let me just say it seemed impossible for anyone to play. And so I kept putting my agents off, and basically I said, I don't have time. I'm in pre-production for Love Life. I just don't have time. I'm sorry. I can't swing it. And they're like, well, what if they come to you? So everyone came to New York City Center where Janine's office was, and I couldn't say no because I only had to walk down one flight of stairs. Yeah, I was already there. So I did go in and I sang Anagram for them, and I think I sang a little bit of Make a Wish, which is Kimmy's first big song.
Yeah, I
in the
love
musical.
that. Mm-hmm.
And I was both of them are many pages long, and I read a few scenes, and it wasn't really an audition. It was more like, let's just look at her and see, does she? Well, let's be clear. I think it was an audition.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, it was an audition. But it's such an unusual role. I think they wanted to see how does she fit? And it was, I kind of love at first sight for me. I just fell in love with the material and fell in love with the authors and David and Janine and Jessica. Jessica Stone, the director, is an old friend of mine. We did How to Succeed together with Matthew Broderick. She replaced Megan Mullally. She's an actress turned director, and she's quite brilliant, and she's the funniest person I know, and she's the perfect director for this piece.
So did you know after that, I don't know what we'll call it, but that the part was yours, or did you wait?
I think they let me know pretty soon after that they wanted me. And then Janine had kind of already decided that it would be something.
It was yours.
Yes, but I kept putting Janine off, saying, I don't know. And she was like, well, you need to come in and meet everybody. And then COVID, that was when COVID. So when I read for everybody, it was 2 weeks before
it hit.
Broadway shut down. Right. So then we had to wait. We had to wait a year and a half.
So how exciting when it finally opened and it was beloved by the tough New York critics.
Yes. And I guess thinking back, I haven't really thought about this, but knowing that it was coming, I had so much time to think about it. It was like planting a little seed and watering and waiting for it to bloom and grow. So I had a lot of time to think about what I wanted to do with this child, with this character. And I think that really benefited the process.
No, I'm sure. And then, of course, as audiences come in and you hear the reactions, funny and sad and everything else, and joyful to be back in the theater and celebrating with a show like this, which is definitely needed.
It was overwhelming to be back in front of audiences again.
Yeah, I'm talking to Victoria Clark. And tell me, What is the story with December Songs for Voice and Orchestra? Big orchestra behind that one. Is that very recent?
Yes, was just released in November. I have to say, I'm super proud of this. I'm very, hard on myself and self-critical at times, but this recording, I'm very, very proud of. It's my friend and colleague Maury Yeston, who wrote Titanic and Grand Hotel and Nine. He wrote a song cycle called December Songs, and it was originally commissioned many years ago for the reopening of Carnegie Hall, and for the anniversary of, I forget which one, of Carnegie Hall.
Right.
And it was conceived for voice and piano, and Maury called me up in January about this time last year and said, would you like to do a recording with a full orchestra? And Larry Hockman did the orchestrations, and Ted Sperling, my old and dear friend, conducted the orchestra. And it is a stunning album. I encourage people, if you love Maury Yeston and if you love song cycles, this is a theatrical kind of tour de force. It's not like a boring classical song cycle. Some of them can be a little long. But anyway, Winterreise is beautiful. It's sort of a female version of Schubert's song cycle, Winterreise, but with more of a musical theater / classical sort of mix.
Yeah, and it's written for solo too. So you have a lot of, you're on the stage all the time, and then this is yours.
Yes, it's a solo. Yeah, it's just one voice. And Maury wanted an older voice. He wanted an older woman to record it. A lot of younger women have recorded it, and he's like, I need a woman that's really lived, has a few more miles on her tire, as I like to tires. So, as I like to say.
Yeah, but that woman is playing a 15-year-old down the street.
I don't have quite as many miles as you do, Joan, but I hope to still be working and thriving, when I get up there with my mileage.
That's right, but why not? You've got the voice, you've got the energy, and you can do it.
Thank you so much.
Half of it is wanting to do it and having the talent, and it's all there. So, is your son an actor, or did he escape?
He escaped. He escaped. He has an absolutely gorgeous baritone voice, and he studied with me. When he was a teenager, after his voice changed, and we discovered he had an incredible, beautiful instrument. And he did a few shows in high school and college, and I think he just decided it wasn't for him. He's working on climate change. He has his own.
Good for him.
Yep, he's working on the major issue of his generation, which is to save our planet and to get people to think differently about climate. So he has a company where he calls it a global incubator. So it's a company where he is connecting people from all around the world to help solve each other's climate issues. If someone in Africa may have the solution for someone in Wales, or, so he's connecting people from all over the world.
Fantastic. And I read an interesting piece on you, how you got Stephen Sondheim's approval, which every singer or actress longs to get, but it took a bit to do it. Do you remember that?
I do. I was playing Sally in Follies at New York City Center during a production of that, and it was really fun. Victor Garber played Ben, so I got to play opposite Victor Garber. It was the whole thing was a dream, and Sondheim was very much involved in the process, and he didn't like the way I was singing "Losing My Mind" because he thought that I was singing it too much as Sally and not enough as a sort of a torch singer. Because all those solos at the end of Follies, if your listeners know the show, during the Loveland section, everybody has a big solo, and Sally's song is meant to be just like a torch song. And what he what he was getting from my performance was that I was blending the character too much with the song. And he said, it's not Sally, it's just some torch singer, which is hard to say to an actor because we blend everything, right? So he's not really a director. He didn't really know what to say to make it work, but he just kept saying it didn't work. But everything he was telling me wasn't really helping, but it was like, okay, it was information that I could use. And so I think we had 6 performances, and after every performance, he'd come back and say, great job, but you don't have Losing My Mind. You don't have it. You don't have it yet. And then finally on the last night, I don't know if he just felt sorry for me or if I actually did get it the way he liked it, but he gave me a huge hug and he said, that was it. That was it.
And what was different?
Honestly, Joan, I tried to use his commentary and just try different things. And so probably that night I tried to maybe distance myself from the material a little bit more and do something different, maybe physically, that Sally would never do. I don't actually remember exactly, but I do know that I made him happy.
And it worked.
And it worked for him, yeah.
It worked. Well, he would have been very happy to see you as Kimberly and Kimberly Akimbo on Broadway now at the Booth Theater. Thank you, Victoria. I loved talking to you, loved your role, and I look forward to us talking again.
Thank you, Joan. It's been a pleasure, and Happy New Year. Happy
New Year, Victoria Clark, and go see that play. It's at the Booth. I'm Joan Hamburg, and you're listening to WABC, and more ahead.
The First Lady of New York Radio, Joan Hamburg, entertaining and informative. Talk Radio 77 WABC.
All right, I love talking to Victoria Clark, and I'm looking at the clock, and it looks like it's just about 3 o'clock. So I'm going to say enjoy the rest of the weekend. I will meet you again next Sunday starting at 2 o'clock. Have a great day. I'm Joan Hamburg for WABC.